SuperTalk Mississippi media production.
Roll pre-record on my count. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Roll A. Fade up on A.
Southern Miss to the top. You're tuned in to the Eagle Hour.
Okay, here we are, Tuesday edition of the SuperTalk Eagle Hour. We're in the Southern Bancorp studio. Bob and Dima. And Daniel Stewart from Southern Bank joins us every Tuesday. He's here with us. A little later in the show, we're going to talk to Scott Watkins down on the Gulf Coast with the Gulf Coast newspaper, Biloxi Sun Herald, as we get ready for midweek baseball, opening segment of the show, sponsored today by our good friends at Movie Star Restaurant, where you can go for a great meal 7 days a week, really, Monday through Friday, 11 to 2, Friday nights, a great time to go on Friday night, 5 to 8, and, of course, Sunday on from 11 to 2, so let me check that, 6 days a week. They do take a day off on Saturday. All right, Daniel Stewart joins us, and Daniel, rematch Tuesday, Rebels and Eagles. Southern Miss beat Ole Miss 2-1 early in the year. Ole Miss has, we were just looking, Demon and I, won 7 of their last 8, beat Florida 2 out of 3 on the road, and swept LSU.
Yes.
Teams, gosh, I got to be careful how I say this. Teams that seem to be going right now in a different direction. Is that fair?
It's fair. You know, gosh, I mean, start of the year, we were the hot team. Ole Miss was trying to find their way a little bit. Now you look at where we are kind of mid-season, and Ole Miss is kind of on a tear. It's kind of the opposite of what we've done. They started slow, now they're hot. We started hot, now we're a little slow. So it's going to be a tough matchup for the Eagles tonight. It is.
Were you, Dima?
Well, I mean, I don't know. It's just a midweek. I mean, at the end of the day, you know, I don't know. It doesn't. I mean, I just think the winner of the game won't be really benefited, and the loser won't be benefited either. I mean, since Southern Miss already won, let's just say Ole Miss wins. I mean, you split the series just like you did last year, and then you know, flip vice versa. If Southern Miss were to win, you know, then Ole Miss isn't really affected that much. So, I mean, I know everybody gets excited about in-state stuff and all that stuff, but this is probably my least favorite game of the year just because it's in Pearl and not a lot of people go. You can't even watch the game. So
yeah. Daniel, now you're a pitcher.
Yeah.
Let's, you know, we're always going to have honest discussions here.
Sure.
We all support the baseball team mightily, but we're entering the last third of the season, and I just find it terribly odd that we're still seeing different pitchers every Tuesday night start. And we asked Oz yesterday about Crabtree. Was he your Sunday starter, or was he just an opener? And he said opener.
Yeah. You know, it's Crabtree's one of those guys. You look at his talent, you look at his stuff. I mean, he throws hard. He's got a splitter. He's got good stuff. And for what reason or the other, it's just like the opposing team just knows what's coming. You know, I can't really put my finger on it. He's somebody that I kind of hopes going into this year would be one of those starting pitchers we could start getting some innings out of. Obviously, you know, he was highly recruited and went to Tennessee. Now he's here. I don't want to say disappointment. That's not what I'm saying at all. But
right.
He's somebody I would hope would have stepped into a role. And you really can't put your finger on what he's doing wrong. I mean, his fastball's a little bit flat, but it's D1 baseball, and those guys can hit hard pitching, and you got to be able to command the strike zone.
Are you surprised, though, not to have a Sunday starter this deep into the year?
Yeah, it is. You know, we talked about it last week a little bit, and you're like, yeah, we're still kind of thinking through it, but you know, it only seems like our situation of not finding starting pitching isn't getting any better. It seems like we're getting further and further away from nailing down who those Saturday and Sunday starters are going to be. And aside from Graydon Harris, it seems like we're kind of a staff of relief pitchers. You know, honestly, you know, Sundstrom can go 4, Cross Silvey can go 4, Ott can throw 2 or 3. You know, we got some guys that can do 2 or 3, but you really want your starters going 5, 6, and getting into the 7th inning.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think Sundstrom in his own right has been fine on Saturdays. You know, he was doing really well until that 5th inning, and
Yeah.
it kind of just, and it really wasn't even his fault. I mean, walked the batter, then the ball kind of just landed in front of Urban, and then should have had the play at third, but missed through it, and then the double play should have gotten out of the inning. So, I mean, I think if he would have pitched a clean inning there, he probably would have gotten to the 7th. Just because his pitch count was so low, but personally, I'm not really that surprised they don't have a Sunday starter. I mean, this is just kind of what we've been seeing. Personally, I can't even remember the last time they had a true Sunday starter. I mean, 2022 maybe. I mean, 23 they didn't. 24 they didn't. Last year they definitely didn't. Last year you had J.B. Middleton and Graydon Harris, and that was pretty much it. Matthew Adams could maybe get you 3 or 4, but I mean, it wasn't. You didn't expect Matthew Adams to get you a 7 or 8 on a Sunday. So it's just kind of what I'm accustomed to seeing with Southern Miss, and but at the same time. One thing I was telling you, Bob, was I'm a little confused on if you're going to have an opener, because Oz, if you didn't hear yesterday's show, said that he views Crabtree as an opener, not a starter on Sundays. So my question is, what about Crabtree is better than what McCarty English was doing as a quote-unquote opener?
That's a good point. I don't know.
Or even what Colby Allen was doing as a quote-unquote opener.
Well, you kind of go back to that. When Colby was our Friday and Graydon was our Saturday, we kind of seemed to be doing pretty well. And I know Colby made it known that he wanted to be in that reliever spot, but there's got to be some thoughts, you would think, to maybe moving Colby back to that starter role. We know he can do it if he's more comfortable in the reliever role.
Or maybe McCarty English back to Sunday.
Absolutely.
I mean,
like you said, Crabtree being an opener, if McCarty English, let him be the opener and see how far he can go.
Right.
Maybe he goes 2, maybe he goes 6. Mm-hmm. We just don't know at this point.
Yeah, no, I think because my thing is and I'm not meaning to question Oz, of course.
No, we're
but
not.
We're just sitting here discussing it, and
Right,
back and forth. But the thing is that my thought is, I thought the reason that McCarty English was not the Sunday starter anymore is because he wasn't getting them deep into games. So now if Thomas Crabtree is the quote-unquote opener, then you already expect him not to get you in a deep in a game. You're really wanting him to get you 1 or 2 innings. So why not maybe go back to McCarty, who generally could give you 4 innings, 3 or 4 innings, and then bring Crabtree in, because Crabtree is a guy to me who can go through the lineup once, and that's about it, I think, on his best day. Bring Crabtree in, get you 2 innings, and then go on to your Ox and your Clarks to finish a Sunday. I just think that's a sensible move, in my opinion.
Yeah. Daniel, explain to us, the bullpen, I think it's fair to say, carried this team a lot early in the year. So I don't want to be too critical of the pitching staff. They've already won a lot of games. But what's a little odd is you've had different kids that have come in who have been really solid relievers for you all year. And individually, they've just had bad days. Now, Colby Allen has bounced back from it, I think, but do you find that normal? I mean, the kids are just going to come in. You can pitch really well game after game after game after game, and then you come in and you're hitting everybody in the batter's box.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that kind of go into that, and I'd say it's always kind of between the ears a lot of times. You either didn't sleep good or there's something else you're focusing on besides focusing on the game at hand. And then, I kind of laugh. I'm a pitcher. I always joke pitches are head cases. Maybe you just don't feel it that day. Your pitches feel like you're coming off your fingers.
Y'all are kind of like kickers.
A little bit like kickers. Maybe not as bad as kickers, but close. But, there's maybe just something just doesn't feel right, and you can't seem to find that slot, can't seem to find that zone. It's just kind of hard sometimes, but take a guy like Cross Sibley. I always joke, say, Sibley has a bad outing. We better start him in the next game because he's going to be lights out. It seems like.
Right. Yep. Yeah. Well, let's not get too down in the weeds. They are 25-10. They're still ranked in the top 20.
Yeah.
25-11.
25-11. Yeah. My bad. See, I'm trying to be optimistic.
I just make sure we're right. Yeah. No, it is something to note though that generally over Southern Miss, when you look at statistic wise, from February to May, the team ERA always goes up. And that's just a case of more data, more film and stuff. The problem is that even though the team ERA has gone up a little bit, it hasn't gone up that much from what it was doing in February and March. Yeah. The problem is they're just not getting any help from the offense.
Correct. Let's not throw the pitchers under the
honestly,
bus.
I mean, I think personally, they pitched well enough to win most of these games.
I think you're right. Give our listeners the stat you gave me before we went on the air.
1 for 21 with runners in scoring position this weekend at Louisiana.
Ouch.
Not going to win a lot
Ouch.
doing that.
No,
right,
you
Daniel?
will not. No, you will not.
And you cannot blame the pitchers when you're losing games because you're 1 for 21 with runners in scoring position.
I remember our discussions were like, hey, we just need to score 5 or 6 runs and we're going to win a lot of ball games. Well, now it's like, man, where are those 5 or 6 runs?
Correct.
We're not getting those opportunistic hits that we were getting first quarter of the season.
Yeah. All right, we're going to take a look at the league overall. We've invited Scott Watkins on the show. Daniel's with us on a Tuesday. Scott Watkins from the Biloxi Sun Herald joining us on the other side of the break. Let's break down what are the biggest surprises. Give you guys some time to think about this. The biggest surprises you've seen, we're 2/3 of the way through the season in Sun Belt baseball. We'll be back. Scott Watkins joins us on the SuperTalk Eagle Hour as we head to the break. Remind you about our good buddies at Genesis of Hattiesburg, the official auto dealer of our show. Sedans and SUVs from Genesis are gorgeous. The exclusive Genesis showroom, Mississippi's only Highway 98 West in Hattiesburg.
Big news from Robinson Electric Supply in Laurel. We've moved. You'll now find us directly behind our old building, right by Sawmill Animal Hospital. We're still your trusted electrical distributor, carrying everything from conduit to tape. And don't forget our full line of Milwaukee tools. Whether you're a contractor or a DIY pro, stop by the new Robinson Electric Supply at 1222 West 6th Street and see what's lighting up Laurel. Robinson Electric Supply. New location, same trusted service.
You're tuned in to the Eagle Hour. The Eagle Hour. Southern Miss to the top.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. We're broadcasting today's show from our Southern Bancorp studio. Daniel Stewart from Southern Bancorp here is with us. I want to give a shout out to this next sponsor. It was brought to my attention last night. They saved the SuperTalk sales crew yesterday, and that's our good friends at Eagle Tire West. Had some tire problems over here, and these guys were gracious enough to come over and change the tire out, get it repaired, get them back on the road. They'll do the same thing for you. Eagle Tire West, run by former Southern Miss baseball star Matt Warren. They invite you to come see them. They sell premium Goodyear products. They do great service work. We saw that firsthand yesterday at SuperTalk, and they do full auto and truck service every day. Eagle Tire West, they're on Highway 98 West. Goodyear Tires, full service, big Southern Miss supporters. Scott Watkins writes for the Biloxi Sun Herald, covers Southern Miss and Sun Belt sports, and is a frequent guest on our show, and we're glad to have him back on today. All right, Scott, I know you're a Troy graduate, so this may be your biggest surprise, but we're 2/3 of the way through the Sun Belt season. Scott Watkins, you cover this for a living. What are the biggest surprises in Sun Belt baseball that you see at this point of the year?
I guess from the beginning, you could say that Troy is a big one. They're just not very good. My wife will put them on the TV, and I'll tell her I don't want to watch it. So I said they're terrible.
That's pretty bad.
We don't watch it. We don't watch it. I won't watch it. But yeah, they've been surprisingly bad. Their preseason player of the year for a moment there was one of the worst qualified hitters in the conference. So that, yeah, definitely put them up there. The league has been surprisingly and annoyingly beefy. I say annoyingly because it's hard to say. You really start to stretch when you say there's going to be more than 2 teams playing in a regional.
Correct.
But there are a lot of much better teams than there were a year ago. And that Southern Miss is feeling that. They're not the only team feeling that. You're also kind of getting a crabs in a bucket type thing going on with a team like Arkansas State. And they're so well-rounded, but they're not pulling away from the pack because there's just not a lot of difference in the pack. Mm-hmm. So I think that's a surprise. And then maybe just Coastal Carolina being able to do what they're doing despite having those significant key injuries there early in the season. They've been able to dominate regardless.
Right. Let me throw this one at you, too. Are you surprised at Louisiana Monroe?
It's hard to say surprised, When you look at the standings again, yeah, they're near the bottom. They're one game away from the bottom. If the tournament started this week, they would not be in it. they are also 3 games away from second place. That's kind of how things are shaking up right now. Yeah, it's surprising, but you have to score runs if you want to win games. And their problems are kind of similar to Southern Miss, just on a much more extreme end. They cannot scratch runs across to save their lives. And that's going to be a problem. It's not super surprising because of the parts that they play in and the level that they played the last couple of years. But they have an upward path just like a lot of these teams do.
You know, I'm going to say this. I really think one of the most surprising parts of this season so far has been Southern Miss. I mean, as far as how they came into the Sun Belt conference slate, you know, basically one of the best teams in the country, and 7 losses in conference. I mean, that is surprising to me. I would not have predicted that coming into this Sun Belt slate. Scott, you obviously cover it very well, and you do a terrific job. I mean, if you had to pinpoint a couple of issues for Southern Miss, I mean, what would they be? What would you say is the biggest issues right now?
I would say, honestly, a lot of people might not agree. You point at the hitting and the inconsistencies there. Those have always kind of been the case at Southern Miss. I would say that you've got 10 to 15 arms that you really like, but you don't have a rotation. Yeah. You don't. I for a while, I was of the opinion that you had 2 starters on the team. I have determined that you have 1 starter on the entire roster. You've got 1 starter, and whoever you're using on Saturday and Sunday, that's an opener. Mm-hmm. And that's pretty much it. Sunday was an opener from the get-go. I mean, from the very first weekend. Yeah. Saturday, I kind of feel like is the same thing. So, I mean, if you're not getting a consistent weekend 1, 2, 3 out of your rotation, and that's going to cause some problems as you get through this conference schedule.
So, Scott, I'm looking at the other Sun Belt Conference rankings here, and Coastal Carolina standing at 13-2. This time of the year, I fully expected Southern Miss to be up there as well. But kind of like you said earlier, Texas State's 9-6, and then everybody else is within 3 wins. Do you kind of see this kind of parity staying, or do you think there's going to be some teams to fall? Think there's going to be some teams kind of rise out of that parity that we're seeing now?
I think that there's a few things that might happen. You might see some teams fall. You might see some teams rise. You might see this logjam kind of stay the same. It's going to depend on which direction some teams go from the crossroads. I think that Arkansas State has a lot of upwards potential. I think Georgia State might be overperforming a good bit. I think Marshall might be overperforming. ULM has a ton of offense, and historically it only gets better as the year goes on over there in Monroe. South is also a pretty well-rounded team, and Texas State has some good pitching and some good offense. So I think the top is going to get tighter, but I think you'll see the middle start to fall back a little bit more. If anything, that first 4, that single elimination round, I think is going to become that's going to become more obvious as to who it's going to be quicker than the top is going to be.
I was thinking about this last night, Scott. I'd like to get your input. What you guys are all talking about, how everybody's clumped together. If this continues, it creates a great deal of uncertainty for the postseason tournament. It's a tournament that it looks like to me there are 5 or 6 teams maybe that show the ability to get on a run and really do a lot of damage in Montgomery.
Yeah, I mean, right now you're looking at Southern Miss playing ULM in the first round. If the tournament was this week, that is a dangerous game because ULM puts up a ton of runs, and you don't know if you have a ton of confidence in yourself and Southern Miss in your lineup to keep up with that. So you have a lot of those type of trap games. Anybody that has good pitching and deep pitching like Southern Miss has an opportunity. If you're Coastal Carolina, you've got an opportunity because you can pitch. If you're Arkansas State, you've got it because you can pitch. But if you've got an explosive lineup like your Texas State or ULM, you just get hot for 1 week. That's all you need.
Sure.
And you're playing in the regional.
So let me throw this scenario at you. Pick a team. Texas State, South Alabama, Monroe. Pick any of those teams. They jump up and win the Sun Belt tournament. Now is it a 3-team league?
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. I mean, the Southern Miss would have to collapse in a pretty significant way for that to happen.
Yeah,
get down to 2.
Yeah, I mean, I think they would have to just fall on their face to miss a regional, especially with their resume. Yeah. Their resume right now is what's separating them. That's why their RPI is so high still, regardless of all these conference losses. Yeah. Scott, I was thinking of potential worst-case scenario matchups for Southern Miss in the Sun Belt tournament, and I would argue that getting, because it's all about who you get on your side of the bracket, And I would argue that in Arkansas State, ULM bracket for Southern Miss would be kind of detrimental to their chances.
Yeah, I think that's probably, to me, those are probably the two worst teams that you can lock up against.
Sure.
Against Arkansas State, again, a very well-rounded team.
And all lefties.
They can pitch.
Yeah, all lefties in their rotation.
That's right. And you've already seen how Southern Miss has handled that situation away from home, and this would be away from home as well. And then ULM, of course, I mean, they can hit the ball. And if you can't keep up with that, you're going to have a tough time.
Yeah, and of course, Southern Miss plays ULM in a couple weeks here at the Pete, so we'll be able to see that play out in real time. And Texas State this weekend, of course, like you said, big offensive team, but they do have a offensive-friendly park. Does that matter as they come into Hattiesburg this weekend?
It could matter a little bit. I'm most interested in watching Texas State's pitching play out. It was strong pretty early on, but there were a couple of injuries there. This will be a big test for them to see how deep it really is. And that obviously, the fact that it's at the Pete is going to play in Southern Miss's favor. It's going to keep these things a little bit tighter. But you really want to see runs. You want to see things get going. You had an opportunity against Louisiana. Louisiana showed that they can score in their park, and you just couldn't keep up with it. So you need this home series in a pretty bad way.
Are you at all surprised by USM's inability to string hits together? Dima pointed out 1 for 21 with runners in scoring position over the weekend.
It's hard to be surprised when we have the same conversations every year. I mean, I've been here. Yeah. 22 is my first season, and these are the exact same topics every spring. Yeah. And we talk about this every single time: left-handed pitching, two out hitting, runners in scoring position. They're not that great in high leverage unless they're at home, and then the magic of the park just kind of appears. But inning over inning, yeah, this is just kind of how it's been.
Hey,
last year was only different because you had the long balls, you had all those home runs.
Yeah, sure. Good point. I'm going to ask you to stick around through the break because I did want to, and I won't keep you the whole segment, but I did want to ask you to update us on whatever you can about the Louisiana Tech situation in the league, and then get your thoughts about football up in these parts. Are you good for a few more minutes?
Yeah, I can hang around.
All right, Scott Watkins from the Biloxi Sun Herald with us, Daniel Stewart in the studio with us. And as we head to the break, I want to remind you about Forest Health Care. Forest Health reminds you that it's fun to keep up with your team, but it's more important to keep up with the most important player, you. Get an annual physical, eat right, exercise, make sure your health is as good as it can be. Forest Health can help you with expert medical care closer to home, foresthealth.org. And as we head to the break, Daniel, how would you like a great barbecue meal tonight? Say, for example, at Dickey's Barbecue.
I don't turn down barbecue ever.
You're never going to turn down Dickey's, or
no?
Well, I wouldn't expect it from Kelly, that's for sure.
Hey, and want to remind you, too, Dickey's is a great catering source. So if you want to cater a meal this weekend at the Pete, not too late, call Dickey's Barbecue. They do a wonderful job. Dickey's Barbecue, catering experts here in Hattiesburg. More from Scott Watkins next.
Southern Miss to the top. To the top. You're tuned in to the Eagle Hour.
Hey, our good friends at DBAT sponsor the third segment of our show every day. That's where you go for baseball and softball trainings, where you take your kids if you want them to be the best they can be. Batting cages, instructors, pro shop. It's a cool place. DBAT, we're lucky to have it here, and we appreciate their support of our show, as we do our dear friends out at MCS Home Center. And I was just saying earlier this morning, they got a beautiful nursery out there, really healthy plants for your lawn and your garden, all the things you need to make your flowers beautiful, your garden productive if you're going to do that this summer. It's all at MCS Home Center there on Highway 98 West. I miss those days, Daniel Stewart, back when my wife was dating her, and her parents were farmers, and they had those big old southern gardens, and I'd go over there and eat fried okra and squash, big red tomatoes and squash and cornbread and peas. Does that ring a bell with you?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's the privilege of being
sitting on Granny's back porch shucking peas.
100%.
Oh yeah.
Scott Watkins, have you ever shucked peas?
I think one time, maybe a while ago.
Was it shucking or shelling peas? You shuck corn, shelling peas.
Shelling peas.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah,
Shelling
that sounds more familiar.
All right, Scott. We'll switch gears here just a little bit. Spring football game Saturday. In this new world of college athletics, it's like a new roster every year. Boy, that is really going to be the case at Southern Miss. I've said several times, and not the most popular thing I've ever said, that I don't think Charles Huff did anybody any favors here and left Blake Anderson with a massive, massive rebuilding job. What have you seen in spring football leading into the game Saturday that makes you more optimistic than perhaps I am?
Well, this is a topic that Dima would know more. He's on site a lot more than I can be, but something about this group. First of all, that's what I tell people is that the majority of the Sun Belt, they're all kind of in the same boat. You're not dealing with a very unique situation where you've got to catch up to everybody else. Look around. There's teams in Southern Miss's own division that are pulling in 50, 60 transfers over the off season. I mean, this is just like you said where college football is now. As far as Southern Miss goes, I know that the defense got cleaned out, and from a team that had an enormous talent on that side of the ball. But I feel like this group actually has a chance. I mean, there's a ton of experience coming back in, a lot of it FCS, but a lot of it FBS. I mean, there's a lot of guys here that have played college football and significant minutes in doing so. So the thing that I would actually look toward the most is that matchup between the defense and the unit that I feel very apprehensive about. And if I were a fan, I'd be a little bit worried about is that offensive line, where it's kind of the opposite. There's not a lot of experience right there. You didn't bring in a ton of guys that have played college football snaps at the offensive line. You've got one starter back. That's your one starter on the whole team, I think, Brock Roman.
Yes.
And then you got like Luke Rogers that you can throw in there, I think. And then after that, out of the transfer portal, you brought in one guy who was a starter, I think, from Texas Southern. And that was it. You're going to have a few JUCO guys, and that's really it. So this offensive line is extremely concerning, very big question mark, but it's also an opportunity to see if this rebuilt defense is what it could be. And this is a chance to see, that group, what they can do and what kind of plays that they can make if they were to come across a team, which they will in the Sun Belt, that is also piecing together an offensive front kind of on the fly.
I think it's fair to say, Scott, that there's going to be a lot of points scored in the Sun Belt this season just because, like you said, Southern Miss with a completely new defense, but they're not secluded in that. They're not the only team in the Sun Belt like that, like you're saying. So I just feel like we're just going to see a lot of offense and very little defense this year, and potentially the best team in the Sun Belt is going to be the one that has the best defense, because, they're just going to be able to score. I didn't want to let you go before, or for us to let you go before you talk about your new website that you started up, the Sunbelt Chronicle, right? Isn't that what it's called? I just wanted you to talk about it because I use it and it's awesome, and I wanted to plug that for you.
That is so great to hear that you use it. Yeah, it's sbchronicle.com. It's something that I threw together because baseball stats are kind of hard to find on occasion. So this is a website that just tracks the entire Sun Belt. It's team level. My goal is sometime in the future, maybe I'll work on the off season, is to get more box score level stuff. But right now, team stats, player stats, the whole Sun Belt, and I try to provide it in a wide variety of ways to kind of see things and visualize things. So I'm very glad to hear that you use it. I've heard that the folks up at Arkansas State, they've checked it out. So, give it a look, and you can see the standings there every day as well. And Rob's rankings. We got Rob's rankings now as well. So I try to get as many things going on to get people interested.
Good deal.
Yeah, it's great. For those who don't know, you can go to Scott Watkins' Twitter account and check it out. I mean, it's amazing. Like you said, everything's on there. And then like the standings as he's talking about, like clipped next to it is like who you'd play in the Sun Belt tournament as if it were today. It's really good stuff. Then you can get charts and put people on charts and stuff. It's really well done. I just want to congratulate you on that.
Yeah. Well,
thank you.
Well, Scott, we will be sending you an invoice for that commercial right there.
Okay, no problem.
But before I let you go, is it official or is it more fake news? Louisiana Tech coming into the league in July?
I don't know. I've heard two very conflicting reports on it. I still think that I'm giving La Tech like an 80-20 chance of getting into the Sun Belt this summer. I think they're in good shape, but we'll see how it plays out.
So there's still a possibility they can play that 20-game football schedule. Is that correct?
I hope so. That'd be awesome.
Scott, thanks, man. We appreciate it very much. What's the website again, Damon? Let's plug this guy.
SB Chronicle, and that's the one he created. But then obviously he writes for the Sun Herald and does a great job there too. So,
Scott, we appreciate you.
Don't forget to read my stories.
Yeah, there you go. Scott, thank you, buddy. We appreciate you, man.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
Scott Watkins, everybody. Biloxi Sun Herald. That's a good newspaper in it.
yeah, really good. He does a great job.
How has that newspaper survived, you think, in an era where so many have gone out of business?
How does our newspaper survive, Paul? That's my question.
How do you do that? I mean, it's got to be tough.
I don't know. I was reading the Hattiesburg American today just because they posted a story about Southern Miss, and I was like, huh? So I was looking to see who wrote it, and at the very bottom, it said, this story was generated by artificial intelligence. And I texted my wife and I said, I might be needing to look for a new occupation very soon.
That's scary.
That is very scary.
Scary to think about.
That is very scary, considering that, obviously our rival paper, I'm with the Pine Belt News.
Are actual newspapers actually still produced?
Yeah, we
these days?
print ours each week.
I can't tell you the last time I saw one. It's kind of just digital age.
Now,
well, if you'd like to see one,
yeah,
$25 a year for Pine Belt News, if you'd like it.
You may be old enough to remember. I just used to live for Saturday mornings in the fall up in the Delta. My routine would be get up, get dressed, get the first cup of coffee, walk outside, get the Sunday Clarion Ledger, and just sit down all Sunday morning and just enjoy reading the newspaper.
I grew up in Meridian, Mississippi. We had the Meridian Star, and, being a kid of the 90s and playing sports, a lot of our football games were on Fridays, and wherever baseball, if you had a good game, you just could not wait for that paper to hit the driveway the next morning, and so you could see what all these guys are writing about you, whether you're playing football, baseball, whatever. But so much good information all in one spot. So it's kind of sad to see how things have changed.
And the Clarion Ledger on Sundays during football season always had those three big sections. They had the 2-page story of the Southern Miss game, the Ole Miss game, the Mississippi State game, and let me tell you, where I lived in Greenville at the time, thank God for the Clarion Ledger, because you could go get the Greenville newspaper on Sunday morning, and there'd be an article about Mississippi State, and there'd be an article about Ole Miss, and then you'd have to dig around through all the college football scores to even see what the Southern Miss score was. So the Clarion Ledger kept people in North Mississippi in touch with Southern Miss athletics.
Yeah.
And now there is no Hattiesburg American, is there?
There is not, but there is the Pine Belt News, who I do work for. And if you want to see page-by-page breakdowns of high school sports and college sports, you can subscribe to our paper.
This guy is plugging stuff today. Have you noticed this? He's on a tear, isn't he?
He is.
You seem pretty impressed with that website that Scott put
It is.
up.
It's cool, and like I said, you can go on Twitter and just get on it, real quickly off of Scott's Twitter account, and don't have to go on your laptop or anything and just pull it up on that way. So he's made it really, really accessible, and it's pretty cool stuff.
Well, my man, thank goodness for you and Scott Watkins and Glenn Dyer and maybe Scott Kirk, because other than that, that's about it.
Yeah, no doubt. And every one of them do great jobs,
the
too.
Hattiesburg American.
Heath Hinton, can't forget about Heath either.
Should be ashamed.
Yeah.
The Hattiesburg American. I mean, the Hattiesburg American, but they don't cover Southern Miss sports. How's that possible?
Well, AI does, Bob.
AI, yeah. That should worry you a little bit, my man.
Yeah.
Is there AI in the banking industry?
Yes, there is.
Is there really?
To a certain degree. I had a lady the other day. I said, hey, can you send me a copy of your operating agreement for your business? And 5 minutes later, she sends me one. She said, I had AI compute it for me and do it for me. I was like, really? Okay. So that may not affect me now, but, I'm sure AI could, create a loan.
Well, the good thing for me is that I don't do anything important enough that AI would pay any attention to what I do.
Well, eventually we're just going to have to speak in this mic, go, hello, hello, and then it'll create a show for us. Now, I don't really want to know what an AI depiction of Kelly would be.
That's a pretty scary
That's
thought.
a scary thought.
Now, see, that's in your mind the rest of
It
the
is
day,
now.
Daniel.
Yes, it is now.
All right, when we come back, we'll take one more look at tonight, get everybody's predictions and last-second thoughts as Southern Miss and Ole Miss square up. And irregardless of the outcome, I just think it's great that the three Division I schools play each other twice a year in baseball. I just think that's the way it should be in every sport. And that's a subject for another show. Right?
Another show.
We'll be back.
Big news from Robinson Electric Supply in Laurel. We've moved. You'll now find us directly behind our old building, right by Sawmill Animal Hospital. We're still your trusted electrical distributor, carrying everything from conduit to tape. And don't forget our full line of Milwaukee tools. Whether you're a contractor or a DIY pro, stop by the new Robinson Electric Supply at 1222 West 6th Street and see what's lighting up Laurel. Robinson Electric Supply. New location, same trusted service.
The Eagle Hour. Southern Miss to the top.
We've got some old gold, some silver laying around your house, and you'd like to turn it into cash. Well, there's only one place to go, Jewel Masters, Highway 98 West Hattiesburg. Jewel Masters is a great place to take your gold and jewelry. They've been doing it for longer than anybody. They give absolute top dollar for all gold and silver. It's very discreet. It's very quick, and you walk out with cash, not checks, cash at Jewel Masters, Highway 98 West. I'd sit there looking, guys, if they ever close down Highway 98 West down, we're going to be out of sponsors. I think they're all located here on Hardy Street or 98 West, right?
Well, we're Midtown.
Midtown, yeah. Well, you're on Hardy. That's what I meant, Hardy Street. And we appreciate Southern Bancorp. We don't tell you guys that enough. But, man, y'all are such good buddies.
We're glad to be a part.
It is always great fun. SuperTalk Eagle Hour podcast is fun, too. You can catch it on Apple, Audible, Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn, YouTube, Alexa, or Siri will play the SuperTalk Eagle Hour for you. And I'll plug this podcast called Legends. We've had tremendous response to the interview we did with Jeff Bauer last Thursday, and really grateful for everybody reaching out to me. And my man Dima here, he's the technical guru behind all of that. If it wasn't for Dima, there would be no. I could do the podcast, but then I'd just sit there and look at it and say, now what do I do? That's where Dima
no
comes
Dima,
in.
no Bob?
No Dima, no podcaster Bob. This week, Steve Knight, what another legend, just retired, winningest basketball coach in the history of Mississippi, Hall of Fame athlete at Southern Miss, professional baseball player. Other than that, he hadn't done much, Daniel.
Yeah, hey, if that's all you can say, man.
It's a great interview, and I did ask him this, Daniel. You might find this interesting. He interviewed twice for the basketball coaching job at Southern Miss, where he's a member of the Hall of Fame, and he was turned down twice. He was both times turned down. And I asked him how he felt about that. And when you listen to the podcast, you're going to be surprised at his answer. But he was very honest about it.
I could assume without listening how that answer was.
Well, it'll be interesting to hear. All right, back on the road tonight. Guys, we were talking during one of the breaks about we just really believe it's just one little spark from igniting the baseball team back to early season form.
Yeah.
Daniel, tonight's one of those kind of games, even though it is a midweek game, but from a psychological standpoint, if they could go up there and put some runs up on the board against Ole Miss and beat them for the second time, as hot as Ole Miss has been, that's the kind of game that can kind of turn things around, correct?
It really is. And, from the player standpoint, hey, it's just another midweek game. From a fan standpoint, I'm loving to see two good, successful in-state teams play each other. But you look at our team and how we have performed, it seems like we're kind of on the downtrend. Ole Miss is on the uptrend. We're needing that spark. We're needing something to get contagious, whether on the mound or at the plate, because for whatever reason, baseball's just that way. You're in a slump, and all of a sudden something happens, and next thing you know, everybody's hitting. You get a key hit, everybody's hitting. So I'm hoping that we can use tonight's game as a catalyst. They're 13 RPI, we're 14, so not going to be a lot of changes based on tonight's game, but I'm hoping we can get a little spark tonight.
Dima, it's a park that gives you a lot of room to base hit the baseball, and that's what the Golden Eagles need to do. They just need to consistently hit singles and maybe some doubles and quit worrying about home runs.
No, that's been the mantra all season. Excuse me. I don't expect that to be the case tonight. However, just if I'm looking at what Southern Miss has done, I don't see them changing it any way. So honestly, it's probably a park that would not play to Southern Miss's favor because they're trying to hit the ball, for a home run, and it's going to stay in the park. So that's the case. I know everybody's talking about tonight, but I really think the spark that everybody's looking for starts this weekend, because you got to start winning conference games. As much as people want to win against Ole Miss and whoever they play in the midweeks coming out, but you got to start winning conference games. 8-7 in conference play is unacceptable, in my opinion, if you call yourself one of the best teams in the Sun Belt. I mean, you've got to start winning conference games, and that starts this weekend. So, tonight is what it is. Whatever happens, I get it. Who cares? I mean, honestly, I hate to say this, but I really don't care about tonight. Friday, Saturday, Sunday is to me where it matters.
Well, our D1 writer that was on the show a couple of weeks ago verified what you just said. He said, and I'm paraphrasing, Southern Miss has already proven itself in midweeks.
Correct.
They've got big midweek wins. They need to separate themselves from the lesser teams in the Sun Belt.
And I don't think Texas State is a lesser team in the Sun Belt, but I still think Southern Miss top to bottom is a better team than them.
Yeah.
And they're coming to your park. It should be a series win, and really should be a sweep, in my opinion.
Yeah. All right, Daniel, we won't see you before this weekend. Give us your prediction of tonight and this weekend.
Well, all things being equal, and I'm a true lover of all things Southern Miss, but you have to look at the trajectory that both of these teams are on. So if all things remain equal, Ole Miss is probably gonna go up on us tonight. I hope that's not the case. I'm still going to root for our boys, but I think to Dima's point, we've got to start doing better in these conference games. We can't be middle of the road. We've got to set ourselves apart, and in the past we've gotten hot late. So I'm kind of hoping that maybe we can find a little bit of steam and get things going for us.
There's still time.
There's still time.
There's still plenty of time.
So who do you think is going to win tonight, Bob?
I think it'll be a close game, but I think all things considered, they'll probably split the series.
Yeah, I think Ole Miss wins tonight.
That's my assumption.
I think
as
they're
well.
two good teams, and one is not going to just dominate the other one. I guess is what I'm saying.
Well, it'd be nice to watch it.
You're not going to.
Yeah, I know.
No stream of tonight's game.
That's no
Only
fair.
on the
That's
radio.
ridiculous.
No fair.
That's so dumb.
All right, Daniel. We'll see you next Tuesday.
See you guys.
Southern Miss.
To the top.
Slipping into the future. I wanna fly like an eagle to the sea. Fly like an eagle, let my spirit carry me. I want to fly like an eagle till I'm free. I go through the revolution.
A SuperTalk Mississippi media production.